While we are waiting for a quorum, we'll go ahead and unofficially call the meeting to order with our program reports. If we could do that. Jesse, would you like to bring us up to date on the
Happy to, yeah.
transit?
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone had a fantastic 4th of July. Presenting our May info for Rapid Northwest. So let's jump into ridership. So for May of 2024, for the entire month, we saw 37,788 riders, customers use our system, our Rapid Northwest system. Our average daily ridership in the month of May was 1,218. Our cumulative total from basically our launch to the end of May, so December of 2023 through May of 2024, we've seen 200,000 customers use our Rapid Northwest. And then also our average daily ridership during that time frame was just a little over 1,000 riders a day, close to 2,000. And then, of course, our average monthly ridership is 32,447. This is taking a look at from December through the end of May. Take a quick look here at the increase there. So from December to January, we saw a 12% dip. Of course, December is when we launched. But then we've seen increases every single month. So a 17% increase between January and February, about a 1% increase between February and March, again a 12% increase between March and April, and then a 2% increase between April and May. Speaking of ridership, so I wanted to take a moment here to take a look at our platform performance. So this is our average monthly ridership at each platform. You'll notice our highest ridership there is at our transit center, and then working our way down Expressway and Blackwelder, inbound, our outbound at Meridian and Expressway, our inbound at Classen and 23rd, and then Northwest 63rd and Meridian. So wanted to talk a little bit about those, right? So again, we're seeing about a little over 9,000 average boardings at our transit center. Of course, this is where everybody goes to make those connections, right, to our entire fixed route system. Also connections to our streetcar and our connector to Norman. And then our next highest ridership platform is the inbound at Northwest Expressway and Blackwelder. You'll remember this is one of those platforms where our original design had it as a smaller platform, but working with the board, we made that our larger platform because we knew that we were going to have that connection to Route 3. And thankfully, we did. So we're seeing about 2,500 average boardings at the inbound platform at Northwest Expressway and Blackwelder. As a case sample, I went out and got this picture, and you want to find out where folks are going, right? So I asked this gentleman that was about to board that bus there, it's like, where are you headed? And where does the Rapid take you? He goes, it takes me everywhere. Like he's like, I'm headed down to the transit center, I can get where I need to go from there, so it's working exactly as intended. Then our next highest ridership is at our park and ride at Meridian Expressway, about 2,300 boardings average per month. Again, this is new ridership, right? These are the folks that are using our park and ride. I'm going to talk a little bit about the media event yesterday, but I wanted to share a quick story that we saw while we were out there. So there was a woman that showed up about 6:30 in the morning. She parked her car, and she's just moved to Oklahoma. She didn't like the idea of driving downtown. And so she shows up, she hops on the bus and takes her downtown, and she's able to get around with the streetcars once she's downtown. So again, exactly as intended, folks are using that park and ride to be able to get downtown. Our next highest ridership is at Northwest 23rd, the inbound at Classen Northwest 23rd. Again, this is a major connector, right? So we put the high ridership platform here, the larger platform, because we connect to the Route 23. And so we, again, did a little research why this ridership is high. It's that connection to Route 23, right? So you did a little bit of data analysis. You can actually catch the 23, take that to the transit center, and that's what folks are using it for. And then finally, just the top 5 here. So about 1,300 average boardings at Northwest 63rd Meridian. This connects to the Route 8. So again, the data shows that our Rapid Northwest connecting to our fixed route system is working exactly as intended, and folks are using that for those connections to be able to use our entire system. So thank you, board, for helping us develop that route because it's working exactly as everyone intended for it to work. And then finally, speaking of ridership, so we had a media event yesterday morning. We surpassed our 250,000 customers using our system, right? Pretty fantastic. I was lucky enough to be the one that stand up in front of the cameras and be able to talk about the fantastic system that we've put together. But of course, this isn't a single person show, so Armando and his team and Lloyd and Megan back at the office taking care of all the media push, our partners at CookCom, and then our operator, Courtney, and our supervisor, Dino, making sure that the bus got there safely, and then of course, our maintenance team making sure that our bus was perfectly detailed. As you can see here in this photo, we were able to use that as a backdrop for the media. So that wraps up the board report. Be happy to take any questions. Yep. So you have a fancy little pylon at your chair. So a little backstory about these pylons, right? So our pylons at our platforms are designed and constructed by Digital Innovations in Kansas City. And so when we went up and worked with them to finalize the final drawings and do our first article inspection of the pylons, we worked with them to come up with this design. And so our partners at Rudy Construction and Digital Innovations in Kansas City, this is actually a piece of plexiglass that they've milled out, and they've added all the details. This is to commemorate the Rapid Northwest launch. And so everyone should have one of these at your chair. And with that, I would just like to say thank you for all of your support with the Rapid Northwest. And again, any questions?
Are there any questions? I will offer, we also thank James Inhofe, our late senator who just passed away, who made this possible through a federal grant that funded a big portion of the Northwest Rapid.
It takes a lot of partners, for sure. Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have a quorum now, and so I will officially call the meeting to order and go back to the regular agenda. There are no items from the chairman. Are there any residents to be heard? There are not. Then item 4 is approval of the minutes. First of all, item A is the minutes of the April 29th, 2024 special meeting of the COPTA Finance Committee. Is there a motion to approve these minutes? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Item B is the minutes of the June 7th, 2024 COPTA board meeting. Is there a motion to approve these? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. There are 5 items on our consent docket. Do any of the trustees would like to pull any one of them or have questions about any one individually? If not, is there a motion to approve our consent docket? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Moving on to item 6 in items for individual consideration. Item A is approve the request for proposal for parking consultant services, estimated annual cost of $200,000, and authorize the administrator to advertise. Suzanne?
Yes, so COPTA has engaged an independent consultant for this audit every other year for the past about 8 years as a recommendation from our city auditor's office. So this audit really is just looking at kind of broadly operations of the parking system. It's not a traditional financial audit. They look at SOPs, they're gonna look at our management contract, make sure that policies are being followed with purchasing with our management contract. It does look at financial controls and has a financial component, but it's not limited to just that. It's a broad overview of our parking system. And so our current contract with our consultant has expired, and so now we're seeking approval for an RFP to find a consultant for our next independent audit. We would expect, if this is approved today, that we'd be bringing a contract to the board this fall, and we anticipate about $200,000 as a cost for the audit.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? I think this is something that we adopted a few years ago in response to some problems we had at the time, and this keeps us healthy,
That's right.
keeps us on the ball. Okay, is there a motion to approve this item? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Item B is approval for a request for proposal for on-call transportation conceptual planning services at an estimated annual cost of $300,000 and authorize the administrator to advertise. Suzanne?
So yes, this is another RFP that we're asking the board to approve. So this one is another one that we've had for several years. So the on-call transportation planning services, what we do with this is we've got just ad hoc transit projects that might come up. Our Title VI report, for example, our grant applications sometimes that are larger grants, fair equity analysis, concept plans. Those are the kinds of things that we hire an on-call professional service for under this type of contract. So we typically like to award the contract to various vendors so that we have some options. Each of those consultants has their strengths in terms of that scope of work. And so we like to award to multiple vendors, and then we're able to shop that scope, shop that price whenever we have a piece of work that comes forward. We do it on a task order basis, so we're asking for authority for this $300,000. It by no means, it does not mean that we will spend $300,000 in a year. What it really does for us is it allows us to take that $300,000 and spread across multiple vendors so that we do have that latitude to hire them for an amount of a project was a little bit higher. So we would like to put this out on the market. Hopefully we'll get several responses and bring some contracts, multiple contracts back to the board for approval. I would just also note that this is on a task order basis, so we would give the consultant a task order, scope of work, agree on a cost before any work begins. So this is very regulated, very systematically regulated with task orders.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Yeah, I think it's great that we have that and can bring in expertise when we need it, especially in grant application. So, is there a motion to approve? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Item C is an agreement with Okana MDE LLC to provide a funding contribution for construction for project MC0672, the First Americans Museum Riverboat Landing, in the amount of $1,004,198. I think this is our local match for a federal grant that we got to construct this landing.
That's right. It's not every month that we get to bring an item to the board to approve an agreement to receive $1 million. So I think that's a real highlight, hopefully, of our board meeting today. So yes, this is a local match to a competitive grant application that we submitted in 2020, and the Chickasaws agreed at that time, if you're awarded this grant, we'll kick in 20% local match of the grant. And so, fortunately, we were able to receive that grant. We were awarded the grant in 2021. The overall grant is $5 million, so the 80% of the FTA portion is $4 million, and the Chickasaws is $1 million. The board awarded our contract to Manhattan last month, so we know the project, of course, is more than this $5 million, but this is a really healthy amount to funding that project, which is a little over $6 million. So this agreement that we're asking for the board to approve today is really just memorializing what they've agreed to, which is the $1 million local match.
Great. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Well, is there a motion to approve the agreement? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Item 7 is ratification of claims and payroll for the period of June 1st through June 25th, 2024. Are there any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to ratify? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Item 8 is to receive our financial report, our schedule of revenue and expenses, budget to actual for the month ending May 31st, 2024. Suzanne?
Okay, so I thought to start us off, I wanted to point out that throughout the report, you will find in the footnotes section some references to some unrecorded revenues and expenses. We're used to seeing that on the parking report and the streetcar report because we do have invoices come in from our managers' contracts that are in arrears. But this in particular is a little bit more than what you're used to seeing, so I just wanted to explain with the new finance system, we've got some of the information that comes into our books to make sure we get our expenses and our revenues recorded properly in the proper month. Sometimes those will come in, a few of those will come in after the report has been put together. And so to ensure we can provide a whole, a full picture of our financials, those revenues and expenses that are not recorded in the numbers above are footnoted. And so as I go through the report, I will mention to you what the number is, that those total numbers with those unrecorded amounts included, so that you have a real accurate picture of our numbers. So I'm going to walk you through that. I just wanted to explain that in advance if you're wondering why we're doing this. It's really just a temporary thing right now, I would say. So we'll start on our typical transportation operations, page 2 of the report. So this is the 11 months into our fiscal year, so just about wrapping up our fiscal year with these numbers that we're going to be looking at today. Overall, our expenses did exceed our revenues by $112,000. As mentioned, though, we do have some unrecorded revenue of $29,000, so that amount is a negative revenue or negative income of $83,000. So if we go and look at our revenue section, about 6 rows down, we've got our administrative fees from Norman. I don't talk about this one very often, but I think I'd point out to you that since we see a negative $65,000 and we don't talk about it a lot, I thought I'd explain and just remind the trustees what this item is. So the board has approved an agreement with Norman, and part of that agreement is we have full cost recovery of our expenses, but we also have a 10% admin fee, and this covers overhead costs such as Jesse's time, for example, or other staff time that's not included in the cost recovery. We don't keep timesheets and bill every single hour worked on it. So this is really just to cover our general overhead, and so that revenue winds up in our transportation operating unit, not in the Norman operating unit. And so the negative $65,000, really that indicates to us that the expenses from Norman are lower than what we had budgeted when we put this budget number together. We are fully caught up with collecting our 10% fee, so it's not anything to be concerned about. It's just the expenses with Norman are less than what we had budgeted. So that's what that negative variance is. Federal grants.
Suzanne, on that
Yes.
agreement, does it end up being then that we're collecting 10% of what's actually charged versus what was planned?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so each month's invoice has a line item on it of 10% of that cost. So 2 below that is the federal grant line. We talk about this one every month just because it's such a large source of our revenue. And you'll notice that we've collected $6.6 million year to date, which is $425,000 below what we had put in our budget year to date. But I will say that in the month of June, so next month's final report, we have collected the entire $8.5 million of revenue for the year. So we'll see next month that we are made whole on that $8.5 million revenue that we had planned. Going 3 down, the state government subsidy. This is one that we've collected a little bit more this year than we have in years past. We're really grateful for that. We've received $1.3 million of revenue so far this year. The month of June, we received the final payment, so it's 3 installments. We've received that payment, and it'll be in next month's statement. So we'll actually be a little ahead of revenues on our state government subsidy. And then I'll go the overall revenues. So we're at $39 million collected year to date, which is $240,000 less than what we had budgeted year to date, which is just 0.5% below our budget. And then let's move down to expenditures. So this one, I wanted to point out in particular, you'll see fuel is a positive variance of $819,000. And I was thinking about last year how We weren't really having that conversation with fuel being in the positive variance. It was typically in the negative variance. But of course, with fuel costs having gone down and more of our fleet being CNG fueled, we're seeing savings in our fuel line. You'll notice the supply line is negative $411,000. The budget that the board adopts puts supplies and fuel together. That's just one line item in the budget that the board adopts. On this statement, we pull out fuel just to monitor that line item, but really overall, our supplies are actually in the positive at $407,000 variance. So if you look at it holistically under supplies, we are ahead of where we anticipated being with our savings with supplies. So the expenditures are $39 million, and our total variance is $1.2 million. So we are in the positive on our expenditures from where we had budgeted year to date.
Could I interrupt you with a question real quick? Going back up to our revenues and advertising, I'm seeing a significant increase over what we had budgeted here. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to do that. So I believe it was last summer, I might have the month wrong, June, July timeframe, the board approved a new agreement with Hauk. And in that agreement, there's a $500,000 minimum annual guarantee. So when the budget was put together, we didn't have that MAG. And so you'll see our budget amount was $175,000. We didn't have that MAG. So we've actually done a lot better because now we have that minimum guarantee. Plus our advertising has really just picked up. Hauk has done a really great job getting out there, hustling to get more advertising for this includes rapid, this includes fixed route. So when we talk about streetcar, you'll see that we had budgeted quite a bit more for streetcar than what we're actually realizing. We do it as an allocation because that MAG covers all of our transit modes. So they don't parse it out, this dollar went to streetcar and this dollar went to fixed route. So we just have an allocation percent that we're using to put the revenue in those different op units.
And where would our bus stop revenue be captured? Is it here or is there another?
The Tyler revenue is not captured in this report. It has its own independent operating unit that it goes inside to be used for specific designated use, but it's not in our operating budget.
Oh, okay, so we don't have it reflected here anywhere?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, we can move over to page 4, which is our parking operations. So with parking, our total revenues are $6.2 million, and they exceed our expenses of $4.3 million by $1,878,000. So this is one, I'm going to kind of plug in some of the unrecorded numbers for you. So our total revenues, if you plug in the unrecorded numbers, the unrecorded revenue that's mentioned there of $109,000, we're at $6,324,607. And then if you plug in on the unrecorded expenditures for March, our total expenses are $4,657,073. The reason I'm not plugging in the May invoices, excuse me, I said March, I meant to say March and April. The reason I didn't plug in the May invoices is that we typically do see we're 1 month in arrears, and so I'm just kind of following that standard process that we're used to seeing and not including those unrecorded expenses. So it does put our operating income a little bit lower than the 1.8 you see reflected on the report. We're at $1.6 million of a positive operating income for parking. So under the revenue line, the events and transient parking, you'll see we're ahead $462,000 from what we had planned this time of year. And we've been seeing that trend. I think I've talked about this several months now, just that we're doing really well with our event parking. So in the month of May, we had about 8 very large events, and Thunder Playoffs were a couple of those, and we also had something called an Artini trade show. I had to Google that one. But it produced about 2,000 event parkers for us. So those 3 in particular were really great generators of revenue for the event parking, and we had several other smaller events that contributed to that amount. Just as a reminder, the miscellaneous, you'll see some revenue there. If you're wondering what that miscellaneous revenue is, that is a transfer from the city earlier in the year to fund upgrades to security at the Cox Garage. So that's been on our report for a few months, but I just thought I'd remind you of what that is. So going down to expenditures overall, since we don't have all of our expenses recorded in those numbers, I thought I'd just mention to you the negative $55,000 you see under supplies. That is related to a repair we had with Skidata within our parking garages. So that's all I have on the parking operations. And I'll wrap us up with streetcar, page 7. So this is another one that has some unrecorded revenue, but it's pretty negligible. It's $1,000, so I did not revise the numbers to reflect that. But our expenses, the balances reflect invoices paid through March, so we have some unrecorded expenses from April that I wanted to plug in for you. So our April total expenditures, or if we plug those in, the April expenditures were, our expenses are at $5,870,000, and it's a negative variance, or excuse me, a positive variance of $98,000. So we still are in a positive variance with our expenses on streetcar from where we thought we'd be year to date. Our overall operating income, if you include those unrecorded expenses, is $505,000. So those are my notes for the financials in the month of May, but if you have any questions on any of the other items, I'd be happy to answer those.
Could you help me better understand, going back to Trustee Reese's question about the advertising? I guess I wasn't clear my understanding in my understanding regarding the Tyler Media advertising revenue and that not being here. So where do we have some sort of like log of what revenue they're generating for us? My understanding for a long time is that revenue, that there's like a bit of a trade-off in terms of like upgrading the furniture for Embark, these sorts of things. Where is some sort of, accountability for that, a record of that?
So I do not have the numbers or the exact details on that for you this morning. Would be happy to provide that for you. But the advertising revenue for Tyler, a lot of that is the in-kind that we have in our arrangement with Tyler in the agreement. So I'd be happy to pull that information for you.
I think that would be great, and I don't think it would just, and I can't speak for the other trustees, but for me, that strikes me as something we would want like in an ongoing manner because of the depth of that relationship. Yes, so I'd like an ongoing record of that, and I'm seeing some nodding heads beside me, so.
So the advertising revenue is offset by the expenditure on the bus stop fixtures that we upgrade.
Right. And they provide,
Shelters.
so the revenue comes in, they provide quite a bit of maintenance on shelters and repairs and things like that. So it's kind of more of an in-kind. So we don't have those expenses to repair things. So it's, a lot of it's in-kind is why.
But you have some sort of tally that you keep a record of what's being traded.
Yes, and we do have, like it's a separate operating unit altogether, so that financial is tracked. It's just not in our standard monthly report.
Okay. Well, if we could see it in the future, I think that'd be a great,
We can do
great
that.
idea.
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce that. I think we, as a group, spent quite a bit of time looking at that agreement and making sure that it was going to be an overall net benefit to the organization. And being able to see that, I think, just helps us to make sure that we made the correct decision there. I think the hope was that with the new agreement that we were going to see an increase in revenue as well from overall, even though we were changing some of the commission structures to increase the side of Tyler Media. So I think just being able to see and track how that is performing would be of great benefit.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments about the financials? If not, is there a motion to receive our May financial reports? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Okay, moving on down to our program reports. We've already had our Rapid Northwest and transit update, and so Marilyn's going to bring us the Mobility Management Services report.
Good morning. How is everyone? I'm slightly different height than Jesse, so I have to always move this so it doesn't poke me in the face. I'm glad everybody's here. I'm glad we all survived the 4th of July and all of the things going on. I couldn't believe we had 250,000 riders on Rapid. That's pretty amazing stuff there, isn't it? So let's get started here. So the numbers I'm giving you these are our year-end numbers as of June 30th. So this is how we ended the fiscal year. You can see here that we've got some really good programs going on. Everything is going up. Demand has just gone through the roof. For all of our mobility services, we ended this year at 137,307 trips, 137,000 trips. That's an increase of nearly 13,000 trips per year over the prior year. I'm excited about this. It means our outreach is working. It means your efforts talking to people in the community are working. It means that our community is talking with each other and referring their friends and family. So we're thrilled with these results. In our homeless and low-income program, in partnership with the planning department, again, this is another area where demand has gone a lot. Bus pass distribution, a few years ago, that number was in the 40,000s. Now we're up to 64,000. We're very excited about that. One of the things, we talked about this several times in my presentations, is the Share a Fare program. That's a trip subsidy program for seniors, individuals with disabilities, and other low-income populations. We used to use a voucher-type program, which was a little more affordable for that population. As you can see from the ridership there, the subsidy is not enough to really help those individuals really make use of that service. So it's one of the projects for calendar year 2025 is to look at our Share a Fare program, see what we can do, see how much budget we have, maybe to increase the subsidy, make it more affordable. It's one of those programs that our seniors use it for little one-off trips. Maybe they might not be eligible for paratransit services because they don't really have a disability, they're just elderly. A lot of them will use the Share a Fare to go to church on Sunday, and we really want to facilitate that for that population that's just not quite qualified for paratransit, but still has travel needs and doesn't drive anymore. So we're going to really take a hard look at that this year and see what we can do to improve it. So this is a new program. I think we'll be really excited about this. The Arnall Family Foundation reached out to us. Evictions are rising in Oklahoma County. We have about 1,500 a month. 76% of the individuals that receive eviction notice don't make it to court for their eviction hearing. That's a big deal because attending that in person provides some rights and some additional time to move out. It has some protections in them about collecting rent arrears, helping people stay stabilized and not become homeless. So we're really thrilled that they're able to reach out. They gave us $18,000 a year. What we're doing is in the mailing with the eviction letter in Oklahoma County, they will now receive a flyer with a QR code and a phone number. If you cannot attend your eviction hearing because you don't have transportation, then they will get a one-day bus pass to do so. So we're really excited. Again, it just launched in June. It's just getting started. We're working on getting some numbers for you, and I'll have some impact numbers for you during my next presentation. So Embark Well, Senior Health and Wellness. As you guys might be aware, we just cut the ribbon not too long ago on another one of these down on the south side of Oklahoma City on Southwestern at about 136th. I was personally very excited because I am now old enough to attend it, and it is less than a mile from my house, fully sidewalked. Go Oklahoma City. So we're really excited about this. I want to call your attention to that FY 22-23 number. We had 2,755 trips that year. We ended this year 5,830. Nearly 3,000 more trips this year. The seniors are really embracing this. It's making a difference in their life. It's making a difference addressing that social isolation that a lot of older seniors that live alone have. We are looking continually, as with all of our programs, we want to make sure we have enough funding to continue to sustain this growth. Should the city decide to build more health and wellness centers, should we try to go out, or if we ever go out and do another Willa Johnson, we want to be able to support those individuals to get to those. If you'll recall, about a year after we launched Embark Well in 2019, we did a case study. We followed 6 participants for a whole year that were going at least 3 times a week, because we wanted to know, from a health standpoint, what kind of impact is this transportation making for these individuals? So we picked 6 individuals. They signed a consent form and agreed to share with us their medical information when they went to the doctor. We interviewed them. We required that they go at least 3 days a week so we could test the impact. What we found was that 83% of those individuals were able to reduce their A1C scores with their diabetes, and 2 of them were actually able to go off medication for their heart condition and their blood pressure because their regular exercise had gotten them health. And all 6 of them received outstanding to superior health improvement ratings from their physician from the time that they started the case survey to their final 12-month examination. We have redone that case study this year. We'll be bringing that report to you soon. We're analyzing the results right now, and so we'll have something for you soon to kind of really see if it's continuing to do what we intended it to do. So let's talk a little bit about Climb Right. I think what we've firmly established with this program is that removing a transportation barrier works. Many times, families fail through the system simply because they cannot get to where they need to be to do the things the court is asking them to do to reunify their family. So we've been doing this one since 2019. This year we provided 4,700 trips. We only have a few new referrals on the waiting list, and on average we're serving 100 families every month. We went back to DHS last month and did a double check. We've been doing this for almost 6 years now, and we still have 0 recidivism. If a family goes through Climb Right and successfully reunifies, they do not come back to the system. So what does that mean for us? Well, our All Family Foundation came back at us and said, well, that was pretty impressive. Let's see if we can do it again. So we just recently executed a 3-year grant with them. We will be bringing that information to the board next month. But it is a $1.4 million grant over 3 years. We'll be partnering with Pivot Incorporated. And we're currently in the process of interviewing to hire our mobility program coordinator for this project. We're going to be working with transition age youth aging out of foster care to try to stabilize them into adulthood with education and workforce support, as well as socialization and volunteer activities. And just your daily needs, go to the doctor, pick up a prescription, get some groceries. One of the big things we found in our research as we prepared this proposal is they tend to get insular in some of these programs, and they don't engage out in the community. So when they graduate that program, they have not made those community connections to continue to stay stabilized. That's one of the big goals with this, is the community connecting those youth to this. So we're very excited about it. Here's some other new partnerships. June 3rd, we launched a replication of our project with Remerge with Hope House OKC, which is also another diversion program working with single mothers. Hope House had 358 trips in their first month. Remerge is doing about 2,700 trips a year. And of course, as always, we are partnering with Palomar Family Justice Center, a little under 2,500 trips per year. These are additional partnerships are coming. The success of these programs and the success of the Climb Right, as well as our outreach events to try to work on community transportation coordination activities, has really sparked a fire in our city. We have, in the last 6 months, spoken with the Diversion Hub, Dale Rogers Training Center. I have a meeting this afternoon with the Oklahoma Foundation for the Disabled. Our transportation network is growing, and we are so excited about the progress we've made and what's coming in the future. So as we all know, we are assuming the direct recipient status of the urbanized area funding for 5310 for seniors with disability and individuals with disability. Its current apportionment funding is $1.2 million. That is based on population and does change a little bit every year, but that's where we're landing right now. We have been having weekly transition meetings with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation and the FTA's Region 6 office down in Dallas to help guide us through this. Progress is going really well. You know, I mentioned our coordination activities. One of the things that we do under 5310 is hold a monthly community transportation coordination event. This is where we talk to agencies that have transportation and access needs with their participants, but maybe don't have the bandwidth or the staff to run a vehicle in a transportation program. We're making connections between these agencies through these meetings, and it's our ultimate goal with the 5310 is that we will have that transportation net for the disadvantaged to make those trips that maybe our fixed route system just doesn't quite get them to the place they need to go to. So we're very, very excited about what this is coming. Our last meeting with the FTA, they were extremely impressed with our preparations to this point. So I'm confident that we're going to be able to assume this funding with as little hiccups as possible and really just hit the ground running on October 1st when it comes into us. So let's talk a little bit about grants. We talked about that earlier, about getting grants. We're always excited, to Suzanne's point, when we get money coming in. So if you'll recall, we got an Innovative Coordinated Access and Mobility Grant, or an ICAM grant, in 2022. That was designed to replace our mobility and trip scheduling software. We have finished the RFP process. We have done demonstrations with 3 vendors, and we are currently in pricing review and preparing to award a contract, which we will bring to the board in the next couple of months. One thing you didn't see on your agenda packet this month that you will see next month is we did it again. We decided to try again for ICAM in 2024 and found out in June that we were awarded $415,900 on a second ICAM grant. That will be used to redo our call center and dispatch area. Basically, our call center is in an office. It is not soundproofed. We've grown exponentially. We have additional people in that room that we never had before. It's very loud in there, and we're taking phone calls from individuals that are elderly, that might have a hearing impairment, things like that, and we often will have to say, could you repeat that? Could you repeat that? The goal of this grant, and this is the second project, is to, as we remodel South May, soundproof that room appropriately so that we can really engage our customers and have a really improved customer experience overall through a positive call center. That grant also includes the purchase of a couple of additional mobility vehicles as well. And like I said, we'll bring that item to you guys for acceptance next month. So I was really privileged in June to get to take one of our awesome drivers and transit professionals to West Palm Beach, Florida for the Community Transportation Association of America Conference and National Driving Rodeo Competition. This is Jennifer Smith. Jennifer Smith competed here at Oklahoma and was Oklahoma State champion for paratransit vehicles. We were thrilled with her performance. She competed against 76 other drivers from across the nation, including Hawaii and Puerto Rico. There were people there from everywhere. There was even one gentleman from Alaska. So this was some heavy competition that she had with 76 other individuals. Byron was with us, our training analyst. Byron said, I've been doing these rodeos for years, and that is the tightest course I have ever seen in my life. I don't know how she did it, but she did it in time, and she did not touch a single cone, and she took 35th place. So we are quite proud of her. I wanted to recognize her. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Regarding the eviction work, which I think is just incredible that you all are doing that, and so applause. I'm wondering regarding the letter that goes out. So I think, of course, the bus pass makes a lot of sense, but I'm also thinking about when I look at the rest of the services that you all provide, especially at the door. Sorry, it's going to be a disturbing story, but you all remember in the news the 80-something-year-old, right, who set themselves on fire when they received an eviction notice. It makes me think about the seniors who might be facing eviction, and just people who might not be familiar with the bus service, or it might be just a little bit outside of the fixed route. Is there any way to amend that letter to where they can call to get additional information about just like the range of public transportation
It
services?
does have that at the bottom of the list. It has
Just
that at the bottom of
checking.
the flyer underneath the QR code. You know, if you'd like to learn about additional services, please call this phone number, or here's our website address. Another thing that we do for the seniors specifically is, you know, our senior services are funded through Older Americans Act funding, and we are partner with the Area-wide Aging Agency for that. Older Americans Act funds many other things besides just Embark Transportation. That funds legal aid, it funds in-house services, caregiver services, meal programs, Meals on Wheels, all kinds of things like that. And one of those is legal aid. So we work very closely with legal aid because they're the entity that's working with those seniors more than anyone else. And so legal aid actually has flyers and information, and we share under the Older Americans umbrella a software system where if legal aid has a senior that calls them and says, hey, I'm getting evicted from the house, or hey, I have this problem, or hey, I have that problem, legal aid can enter into that software system a referral that comes directly to Embark, and then Becky or Carrie in our senior transportation program reaches back out to the senior and gets what they need. So the Older Americans Act is a very seamless type thing. A lot of the barrier there is just making sure seniors know those services are out there.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, we also have a presentation from our parking services report. Corey.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Saving the most boring subject for last, I see. Not to me, though. 2.5 years ago, we transitioned from one parking operator to another. Some successes there. While it was challenging for staff and whatnot with those changes in the frontline staff and whatnot, some successes that we should all be proud of. Public was unaware of some of those stumbles. Locally, we have now 20 years of experience in our frontline management pool. Large amount of event management, large operation experience day to day. The individuals have spent many a year, two plus decades in the industry. The corporate support from our new relationship with PCI Municipal Services has been outstandingly responsive. But as we know, local staff can be a challenge at times as you maneuver through those things. Some statistics. Hourly, daily customers, again, above last year. We are the nuance in fiscal year 21, 22, if you're just looking at May. We're utilizing our parking access revenue control system more and more for these smaller events at the convention center in order to save costs, human costs. Our event was larger in May. Our event business, again, events at the convention center, and then a particular basketball team that continued to progress. Monthly parking, we did see a dip in that, and plain simple, that's a cyclical thing. We're seeing some city accounts make adjustments to the quantity of parkers. That was the larger portion of that change. And then some minor nutrition, which just happens in that business. I'd say the biggest compliment over the past quarter was the Thunder parking plan. With the new arena location, we're going to lose ultimately the Cox Convention Center garage parking, currently at 795 spaces. Most recently, this past season, we were offering 2,435 of our parking spaces to Thunder ticket holders. Through many a conversation with the Thunder, we're going to offer more of our parking garages during this construction build process, and we've made available 2,530 parking passes. The Thunder will start communicating that information to their season ticket holders. Actually, they started yesterday, and they'll go through a system in which those customers get to pick where they want to park and whatnot. The Thunder has communicated their appreciation and our cooperativeness to make our collective customers happy. So that is the parking report today. Any questions, comments?
No, I just want to mention that I appreciate the work that you all did working with Thunder, coming up with another option, but I think too, helping people to look at the parking garages that are further west as an option for more activities that are downtown and combining that with streetcar services. So creative approach, but I think it'll open up people's eyes to opportunities that are here and the advantage of being able to park in these garages. So great work.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Are there any other questions or comments about any of our program reports? If not, is there a motion to approve our program reports? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote electronically. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 10, which is items from the trustees.
Thanks. I just wanted to congratulate the city on the first maps for sidewalks. They are under construction right now, and really appreciate voters, of course, approving maps for. You might wonder why I bring that up at COPPA, but I would just point out, as I did on my Instagram story yesterday, the sidewalks on Chartel heading north from 23rd are going to connect Uptown District better to the Paseo District, but then residents, right, walking between the districts. But then also, there's sidewalks that will head west to Classen, to the Asian District's bus rapid transit stations. And so I just think this is such an incredible thing. And so many of the sidewalks from Maps 4, at least in this area, are filling in blanks, right? So there are fits and starts of sidewalks that have been in Jefferson Park, Paseo, Central Park area. My request, though, because I think this is so exciting, and my Instagram people would agree, I noticed from the little hearts, but I think a little bit of a missed opportunity here, and I don't think it's too late to do something about this. With Better Streets, right, there's the signage that goes out when we're doing a project. This is a Better Streets resurfacing, bike lane, whatever it is. And I'd like to see something like that with these Maps 4 projects. Even when it seems, I could imagine the thinking being, well, it's a sidewalk, and while it's important, it's not, you know, it's not an arena, or it's not a big street resurfacing project. But I just have to emphasize that for me, knocking those doors in both campaigns, talking to 2,000 people, the top 5 issues, number 1 was walkability and pedestrian safety, followed by public transportation and homelessness and education and bike infrastructure, traffic calming. They were just all together. My voters, I cannot speak for the rest of the city and the other wards, not just my voters, but my residents. That was their ask. They wanted to see Maps 4 expanded into their neighborhoods better. And this is literally an example. And they need to see that. Like, they need to know that their vote, that their advocacy, that's what it is. And it might seem a little boring because it's repairing sidewalks and infilling sidewalks, but this is going to be a game changer in terms of that first mile, last mile connection that we all talk about. So I don't know, I mentioned this to Director Miller yesterday in a meeting as well, but I need to bring it to the attention of COPPA because I just think this is so, so important. And the other thing I know that MAPS had talked about, and I'm not seeing it yet, but again, the sidewalks are so in their infancy in their construction, but you know, there's some sort of insignia, right? And I know it's difficult when it's infill, right? Because here was a partial sidewalk that was already here. Now we're constructing this new leg of it. I don't know how you keep putting Maps 4 insignias where you're putting an infill or something, but for me, it's like a WPA type marker. It's that level of significance. It really means a lot to us. I don't know where we're heading with that, but I also wanted to congratulate us too.
Yeah, no, it's great work and great insight there too. I'll talk with David about it. I know we've got a plan for how we market or how we, present to let people know that Maps 4 is actually doing, certain projects. I imagine scale of the project probably has something to do with that, as far as like if it's a longer project or a larger project of when we use that signage. But I'll talk with him and see what the opportunities are.
Very honored to have you here, and
Yeah.
we invite you back often.
No, I appreciate that. We were talking earlier, and Laura was out today and said, oh, her plans changed so she could be here. And I said, no, I want to sit in on the meeting. I haven't done that very often. And Jason told me it's a lighter meeting. He said it's a great one to choose. So I really appreciate all the work that you all do along the way, and the team, Suzanne and Jason and all the team, the work that they're doing. I really appreciate the way that we are working to improve our services to our residents in so many different ways.
Well, thank you
Yep.
for being here.
Yeah, no,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Brent? Okay. Suzanne?
I just have 10 things.
Oh, all right.
I'm just kidding. It's just a couple of quick things. So I wanted to mention our half-price sale just concluded on Monday for just our individuals purchasing half-price tickets. But Armando Reyes, our fantastic business development and public affairs manager, we're so glad we have him on board. He's already making a big difference. But his idea was to extend it for bulk purchases. So we have a lot of these nonprofits, give them a little bit more time to gather their resources to make those bulk purchases. So we're already seeing an increase from last year with the ticket sales. And then I also wanted to let Chris Hall introduce a couple of new municipal attorneys that are in our presence here. You'll be seeing their faces going forward, so I thought it'd be good for him to introduce them, if that's all right.
Yes, we're fortunate enough to have 3 new additions to the Trust and Public Works Division. You'll be seeing their faces starting for sure next month. 2 of the 3 are here, Jonathan Garcia and Bailey Richards. And Jonathan, he's been with the MCO's office, with the Municipal Counselor's office for a little while. He comes from criminal justice, and Bailey comes from private practice. And then Kevin Burnett, who's not here, he also comes from private practice. So we'll be seeing them around.
That's great. We're excited to have more support. So, well, thank you all for coming. It was a light meeting. We're getting out under an hour, and